Mark Rogers TV getting you set for college football Saturday. We've got UCLA taking on Arizona in the Pac-12 South. Key game for both teams in trying to stay in the race in that division. We're 6 games into it now. This is week 6 for both teams, both at 3-2, 1-1 in the conference after the Wildcats turned in a late night effort against Colorado last week. And Khalil Tate, 327 rushing yards. That is a new FBS record for a quarterback. We bring in Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin to help us set up the UCLA side as we get ready for this one. Mike, how you doing today?
Good, Mark. Thank you for having me again.
Definitely. Mike's been joining us for a long time and always enjoy the discussion. UCLA, Arizona. So identical records. USC has lost a conference game. They're still considered the favorite. They've got a tough Utah team at home. So the winner of this game stays in the race, still has some hope, has put another division opponent to the side with a W next to the schedule. So this is a big game.
Yeah, this it's still early in the Pac-12 season, so a lot of teams still hold their destiny in their hands. UCLA is coming off a bye week, and it kind of came at the perfect time because UCLA just incurred a ton of injuries in the first 5 games. So, last week before the bye, Jim Morris said that he was looking to get several guys back from injury. Hopefully we can see Jalen Phillips, the stud freshman who injured his ankle against Memphis in game 3, I believe it was. So he hasn't played since then. And he also, actually, during that game, he tweeted that the UCLA is not going to lose another game, if he has anything to do with it. So, hopefully he can keep his word with that. But at the same time, collectively, it's, there's some bigger issues on defense. And he's actually not one of them. He's actually been, really good. But, UCLA could get a guy who hasn't played since last year, Deshaun Holiday, who's converted the defensive back to linebacker, and he would be much needed in the linebacking core, which is a little bit thin. Hasn't been performing as well as it should, although that could be said about the entire defense, specifically the run defense. As I said, one of the worst in the country, and it got a little bit better against Colorado, but it was. It was against Colorado, who they were the Pac-12 South winners last year. They're definitely not looking like that again this year. So, even though it was a good win for UCLA, it's going to be telling to see how big of a game that was at the end of the season. Because currently, right now, Colorado is 0-3 in the Pac-12, last in the South Division. So. We got that going on. But yeah, as you said, the winner of this, gets a leg up because currently there's a 4-way tie for second place. Utah, Arizona, UCLA, and Arizona State all have 1-1 Pac-12 records. As you said, USC 3-1, but they have Utah coming in, and that's not going to be a cakewalk for USC, especially with the troubles that USC has. But going back to UCLA, this might have seemed like a gimme at the beginning of the season, especially seeing what UCLA did to Arizona last year. Jim Mora is 5-0 against Rich Rodriguez, against Arizona in his time in Westwood. So, that's telling. But at the same time, UCLA has a horrible run defense. And they're going to have a lot of trouble trying to contain, actually I was, even if it was Brandon Dawkins, would have been worried because he's really good with his feet too. But Khalil Tate, oh man, just FBS record for most rushing yards by a quarterback with 327 yards. That's insane. So UCLA really has to make some solid adjustments. They're going to have to get, a spy on him. They're going to have to contain him. They're going to have to load the box, make him throw. If UCLA can force Arizona to throw, that's good because UCLA, even though UCLA's secondary hasn't been top-notch this year, they're still pretty solid. They still have a lot of depth and talent, so make him throw. That's going to be the key to victory, one of the keys to victory for UCLA.
Just to catch everyone up in case you missed this, Khalil Tate last week, he's the backup quarterback or was the backup quarterback for Arizona. He's a sophomore. After one pass thrown by Brandon Dawkins, he was hurt against Colorado, left the game, only rushed 4 times, but he was the leading rusher. So the starting quarterback was by far the leading rusher for the team coming into last week. Khalil Tate, the sophomore, he's been kind of a stud, a guy that Arizona fans have been anticipating seeing on the field. He comes into the game against the Buffs, runs for 327 yards and 4 touchdowns. That is an FBS record, as Mike mentioned. He also went 12 of 13 through the air, no interceptions, couple touchdown passes. So we are assuming Khalil Tate is going to get the nod against UCLA, although as of late this week, Rich Rod has not committed to a quarterback officially. So that's going to be a game time decision, or probably a decision that's been made for days, if not as soon as he stepped off the field, Khalil Tate, with his 4 touchdowns and 327 yards, but it's not been announced. So that's a bit of a mystery there. UCLA actually opened as a 2 or 3 point underdog. It swung, so the public likes you, Mike. The Bruins have swung to like a 2.5 point favorite. So the money there in Vegas is on UCLA. And now that Jalen Phillips is guaranteed a Pac-12 championship, because you're not going to lose another game, that's pretty much a Pac-12 championship guarantee at 8-1 in the conference.
About time.
So I think the Bruins do anything defensively to try to counter what they've not been effective in doing, and then they're hit with this kid who just broke a record, that this is definitely going to be the emphasis defensively, is containing him.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA has shown the ability to change up their defense. What they haven't shown is the ability to stay consistent with those changes. I do this podcast with some friends, What's Bruins Show, and one of my hosts brought up that UCLA has been able to back off quarterbacks and play the field. They've also been able to load the box. Although the example he gave is that they backed off against Memphis when you should have been, pressuring the quarterback, and they were pressuring Stanford when you probably should have, been backing up a bit with Bryce Love and their new stud quarterback. I forget his name right now, but yeah, UCLA has a tendency to make backup quarterbacks into superstars. So that's not a good sign for UCLA with Khalil Tate, but I guess that's a good sign for Arizona. But for now, UCLA, they have to zoom in on like you said, Rich Rod, might play mind games, not letting the public know if it's going to be Tate or Dins, but for either one, both have really good ability running. So they're going to have to really respect Arizona's tendency to run, because it's going to be a long game if they don't. And as we saw against a couple teams that have abused UCLA with their rushing game, if UCLA is just not on top of their game, it's going to be tough. And it's not just the fact that they're in the wrong formation, or they're just not making the proper adjustments. It's the fundamental stuff, which they tightened up against Colorado, like tackling, staying in the gap, making sure that you're covering your guy, that you're containing the quarterback properly. They just have to stick to their fundamentals to win this game.
Mike, I saw the Colorado game, at least the second half, start to finish. UCLA ekes out a win, 27-23. It was noted a number of times during the end of that broadcast, the relief that you could see on Jim Mora's face, him feeling the heat after the Stanford performance. Josh Rosen had to throw it 45 times, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but Soso's Jamabo, 70 yards, 21 carries, only 3.5 yards, less than 3.5 yards per carry against a pretty porous run defense. Do you think UCLA is going to try to do something to finally commit to the run and make that a more balanced situation?
I think they have to, but it's not as if they've been committed to just passing the ball with Josh Rosen. They've actually tried to get a running game going. They actually took a hit last week. Earlier this week, when Jim Mora announced that Nate Starks, one of their top 3, upperclassmen running backs, out for the season with an MCL injury. He had surgery, and it's going to keep him out for the season. The tough part about that is he's a senior, so it's not known if he can get a medical red shirt. He played 3 games, so hopefully that allows him to get a medical red shirt and come back next year, which we would love to have him back. The guy is a bowling ball. But they're still trying to find a consistent running game with Soso Jamabo and Bolo Olaronfemi, who both of them had a little bit of injuries, so they haven't been in consistently. Bolu started the game, the first 3 the first 3 games to getting most of the carries. The last 2 games, also Jamabo has had the majority of the carries. So it just kind of depends on, I guess, who did well in practice this week, who's showing the ability to break out. But either way, UCLA definitely they want to establish a run game. It's, they don't want to rely on Josh Rosen, because as good as Josh Rosen is, the pressure that the teams are going to bring on him, and the way that they're going to defend the passing game, some team is going to figure it out, and they're going to slow Josh Rosen down. But that's the thing. They're only going to slow Josh Rosen down. You're not going to stop him unless you knock him out. Like the Arizona State did last season. You're not going to slow down. You're not going to stop Josh Rosen. You might slow him down though.
All right, Mike Regalado, Gojo Bruin. You can join him right there for the very best in UCLA football coverage. Of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel as we cover college football coast to coast, and the conversations I have with Mike and other bloggers and broadcasters across the country. The long-form audio versions you can find on Stitcher, Podbean, and iTunes. UCLA, Arizona, both with identical records in the conference and overall. Big game in the Pac-12 South to keep up with. Probably the winner of USC Utah is going to be the front runner after tonight. Mike, we appreciate you breaking things down for you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me again.